Thank you all for coming, and thank you especially for braving the rain today, because I'm sure that was an adventure. My name is Jennifer Remenchik, and I am a member of the exhibitions team here at the Brand, and creator and moderator of Art Talks at Brands, an initiative in which contemporary artists from the Glendale and Greater Los Angeles area are invited to discuss their work and the issues that surround it. Followed by a discussion with myself and a public Q&A. This program is free and open to the public. I would like to take a moment to thank the Brand Associates for their generous funding of this program. Sorry, I'm just having a little difficulty here. Okay. Roksana Pirouzmand, born 1990 in Yazd, Iran, is a multidisciplinary artist currently living and working in Los Angeles. While performance art is at the core of her practice, her ideas have materialized in mediums such as sculpture, installation, and two-dimensional imagery. In her pieces, personal experiences are incorporated into installation systems that suggest the possibility of transformation, deterioration, and movement through interactions between the artist and her work. Pirouzmand received a BFA from California Institute of the Arts in 2017 and an MFA from UCLA in 2022. She has exhibited at François Ghebaly, New York, Spurs Gallery, Beijing, Vernacular Institute in Mexico City, Hammer Museum in Los Angeles, Murmurs also in Los Angeles, amongst many other venues. Please help me in greeting Roksana here today.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. Hi Jennifer for inviting me. I'm just going to go through this quick because there are a lot of slides. Whenever you get tired, just let me know and we can postpone it to another time too. So starting from the city that I was born in and grew up till I was like 21, Yazd is in the center of Iran, is in a desert area, harsh, like extreme summer and extreme winters. It's known for its adobe architecture. It's like one of the biggest inhabited adobe towns that still people live in it. Here are some pictures, and this is the art high school I went to in Yazd. So in Iran, you have to kind of decide what is your major when you're in high school. And at first I was put into science school by my parents, and then I was I was a very crafty person already, and I loved to, whenever there was free time, I wanted to make things. And going to science school, after a month, I was there's no time to, it's all homework. And so it was painful. So I told my mom, I begged her, please put me in art high school. So I went to art high school, and then first majoring graphic design because I didn't know what it is. And then seeing what the painting students are doing, I was I like this better. And at the time that I entered the school, I was very lucky. The teacher who just entered the school, teaching there was this young teacher who graduated from Tehran University, coming back to his town and started teaching at our high school. And he would bring us all updated material, our textbook were all out of date and not much of contemporary art. So he introduced us to what performance art is, what abstract art is, and I remember I was so excited seeing Wassily Kandinsky, or I remember Jean de Buffet was my favorite artist, and just go, these are some of my friends. And then we started to initiating this collective. Few of my friends with the teacher that we stayed together even after graduating. And we made our collective calling ourselves Friday Girls, because Fridays are the weekend in Iran, and we got the permission from the school to even go on weekend to like work on things that were outside of the school things and do whatever we wanted. And these are some of the paintings that I was doing back then. Like now looking at them, obviously I was like very much inspired by like Dubuffet, and even back then I was like, they were painting, but like I never like used paint. These were like collages of paper on wood and like carving them. And I think I used ink for like ink and pencils. And then graduating from high school, we stayed as a collective together, and we would do performance acts around the city. So that was like a really, I would say like that time, like that few years, like during high school and after high school, it was like very core of, like it shaped my practice in a way, like those performance actions felt really liberating. And this is a performance that I did in 2009. So as a collective, we asked, I'm going to just play this video while I'm talking. As a group, we asked this art university to let us do this performance act on the campus. We didn't really explain what we are going to do, and they were like, you can do it. And after the first night, they were like, sorry, you can't do it tomorrow. So each of us would do an action in a part of the campus, and then one person become a part of the next performance, and so the audience would follow us throughout the campus. This was the work that I was doing. So I basically had this idea of like painting underwater, and like this was an art high school, and I was like thinking about like kind of critiquing that dynamic of like creating painting, and you would usually ask your teacher, what do you think of this? So yeah, I'm trying to paint under the water. I can't fast forward the videos, so it would take some time. So I maybe we watch a little bit of, I just say what happens at the end. So I paint, and then I think, I don't remember fully, but I think it was like kind of spontaneous on when I was doing, I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. It just came to my mind that like, I think like also I was not thinking, how do I end this performance? So I was like, okay, this would be a way to end it. I knew that one of my painting teachers is in the crowd, so he did not know that I'm going to call him out, and I just like called his name and asked his opinion about my painting. And obviously he did not respond because he didn't know what to say, but this is how kind of the performance ended, and my friend takes me from this to, and then I become a part of her performance. So I'm just going to skip to next. And then after, during those years also, very accidentally, like the person in red shirt, he's an art historian, and he was just traveling to Yazd, and we just happened to meet him, and he said that he's teaching this performance class in Tehran and invited us to take his classes. So every 2 weeks, us as a collective would go to his classes in Tehran. And we started this other collective with this new group of friends, and we would travel around Iran and doing these workshops, like a week-long workshop, inviting people from that city. And our collective was called Catardist, and we would just like use, our rule was like basic material, like cardboard and tape, and a cutter was like the only thing we could use. And we would do like installations around a topic or theme, or we come up with, like this was the first time that actually like I was thinking about like interactive work and like how the audience can be a part of the work. And those times were like really, I don't know, exciting and like very playful, and just being among those people, yeah, it was really great. And then fast forward, 2011, I basically decided that I had this chance of coming out of Iran, and I did not want to study going to the universities in Iran. So, and my aunt was already in LA, and I came through this refugee program to LA, going to Vienna at first for like about 6 months, and then coming to LA, living in Valley for a year. And when I went to, like when I was in Vienna, that was like the first time I actually was like seeing contemporary art in person in a museum, beside the books, because when I was in Iran, everything was like as images. And then, so I came to LA, and a year later, I ended up at CalArts. I'm going to play this. And this was the first, so I remember coming to CalArts and like losing all that, being a part of that collective, like all the friends that I have, and now I'm like alone on this campus, and like there's a culture shock, and also like English communication. English was not that great, and not having any friends. And also the context of art was like totally changed for me. I was like, what do I do here? Like, what does my art like mean here? So basically the first year, I remember it was all about like communication, like not being able to communicate. And I made this work as, so it was basically like I was in this box for about like 3 hours during the opening, and I would communicate with people with needle and thread. And so I would poke it out, people would poke it back in, and they would create this thing all around. And then at the end of the show, when the show was ending, I would undo everything. So turn it back to a blank surface for another conversation. And then fast forward 2016, it was my first solo show at CalArts, mid-dress show. I made this work, basically I made this garment that was made out of like stones, like covering the stone with velvet, and it weighed around like 50 pounds. And the audience could enter the gallery one at a time, and they had to wear this garment. So this was like, I mean, I'm going to show some drawings that it's usually like I have an idea, and then there's a drawing. That's the first like visualization of the idea. And so the audience would be outside. For coming in, they have to reverse this dress, and I put the dress on them, and they would come inside the gallery. And this is how it would look on the other side. And so what happens, what they witness is I would basically sew one more stone with velvet and add it to the bottom of the dress. So over the time of the show, which was like around 3 hours, the dress just gets heavier. And then I did this one on CalArts campus. I called it Pair of Ground. And the idea was like making this pair of pants in the ground, that the length of the holes are like longer than an average leg size of a person. So when you're sitting in the ground, your feet are actually not touching the ground. So I was thinking about the idea of like literally being in the ground but not feeling grounded. And yeah, it was up for some time, but then it had danger things that I had to fill it up. And then thesis show at CalArts. This was the first work that I actually like ceramic entered my practice. And I like really like the material because of its function and like how it could become a food safe object, and like you can eat out of it, you can put it in your mouth, it's reusable, you can wash it and another person can use it. And so I created this installation that it's kind of a continuation of like that, like communication or miscommunication. And there are these mouth-shaped objects that the instruction is on the background there. That's for the audience to use it, you have to stick your tongue in this object and then you can talk. And there are like lavaliers inside each of these sculptures that are connected to a speaker that amplify that sound to the outside of the gallery. So I was thinking about like taking the meaning out of a word, taking like you can't pronounce the word fully and it becomes just like a sound, and amplifying that sound, that mumble kind of. I should have played this sooner. But here is the video of it. It's a little long, but we'll see, just like seeing the installation. So there were like 3 kind of scenarios that could happen. There was one that people could sit around the table and talk to each other. There were like 3 ways of like talking basically to yourself on the wall. And there was one that I was behind one of the sculptures and they could like talk to me. And then I managed to bring the water in the gallery and a sink, so the mouthpieces could be washed and reused for the next person. I wish I could fast forward that. I feel like this work could not be happening after pandemic anymore. No. So graduated from CalArts. For a year, like this was like very tedious work of like making this carpet for a year. So I sewed over this like toy squeakers and then connecting them to turn it into this carpet. And the idea was like hearing the stories that my grandma would tell me about her childhood and how she basically really comparing to what we had like toys and playtime, and she didn't have any of that. Like it was like she started working when she was like 7, 8, like helping her grandma. And so I basically made this for her and took this with me in a suitcase to Iran, and it fit perfectly in her room, and she's walking on it here. And then, UCLA 2019, that's when I started MFA at UCLA. This is Valeria here. Yeah, I know. So for this work, actually, I needed a lot of friends' help. I had to practice it to see how much I can endure being up there, and so I would ask friends to come check on me every half an hour, make sure I'm still alive. And so this was happening during the first open studio, and at the time in Iran there was a big upheaval happening, and the internet was shut down for 10 days, and no one knew really what's happening in Iran. And I was really stressed. My family was there, and then at the same time I had to prepare for this open studio, and I was questioning what does it even mean to make art in this kind of context. And so I decided to basically empty out my studio and put my work table on the wall, and a bag of clay, and my laptop playing podcasting the live BBC Persian news that I usually those days I was really attached to news and what's happening in Iran. And so this basically working against the gravity and making this object ceramic is so dependent on the gravity, and and so when I was attempting to make this object, it would obviously at some point it would collapse and become this futile act. So yeah, I was creating this situation to create this futile objects. Okay, so then pandemic happened 2020, and that was basically 2 months after that performance, and being at home and not having that audience anymore, and I was so what do I do now? And so I gave this task to myself of drawing one empty room each day and think of one performance idea in that room. And I did that for about 40 days, and so I don't think I ever performed any of this actually, but I was making this series of just ideas for performances. And then slowly these ideas, I was less bonded to the physicality of the possibility of, is this possible to do it actually in a space, and then became more of a surreal images. So this body of work kind of came out of that, and also that's when with those performance ideas also, it was I learned how to paint with clay on a clay tablet, clay slab, and these are also all clay paintings, and so that they are all this one body in each room that are connected through these holes that are actually cut through the slab, and they are the bodies are connected through their hair. That is also their faces are emptied out. So it's being beaded through this space and through each other. And also there like this tension of like both like one, like the narrative that was like slowly when I was making them, I was not really making them like thinking this comes after this, but I was thinking like some of them like was like this person is causing pain to this other room, to this body, but like it's also saving another person in the other room. And I was thinking about this like care and violence that comes later in the other works also. And then this passage through the present was my thesis show at UCLA. So that body of work basically started from this cast, this mold that I have of half of my grandmother's body. That I was in Iran in 2018, I casted her without knowing like what I'm really going to like do with it. I just wanted to have like, as if like I'm taking like a 3-dimensional photo of her body. So I had that for like few years, and then summer of 2021 she passed away, and I really wanted to see her one more time. So I went back to that cast like molds and I casted them, and then this idea kind of like slowly shaped, and then I realized, oh, I can like cast it out of clay, and then the clay can hold the water, and like what does the water like stands for like in this like as like stories or untold things that seep through the body. And so this ceramic pieces has small holes that the water slowly seeps out of it. And so the top is my grandmother's body, and at the bottom on the couch is the cast of my mom's body. And so this kind of layers of it just added throughout like maybe months of like just like being around this objects and thinking then about like how trauma or stories like are passing through from one generation to the other. And so the body, my mom's body is on fired clay, and over the time this water would erode the body at the bottom and would dissolve. And yeah, this was the other work in the show that was this family images that was like transferred on clay tablets, and it was an interactive work that people could rocket from side to side, and the idea was like the image becomes visible and invisible at times, and how like that's similar with memories or history, and like how much of it remains and how much it just fades away. And over time, but by rocking this, this image is going to fade away. And this is the other work. The title here is wrong. It's Tapping, Rocking, Remembering is the title of this work. And it has two main components, which is this clay tablet that at the bottom is the image of my great-grandparents that has been transferred onto clay slab, and on top is a cast of my grandmother's index finger that is covering the image. And each of the fingers are connected with two threads going through the wall and go to the other side of the wall connected to this rocking chair. And it has a performance component to it. So, yeah, I let you guys see it. So this element of repetition and like sound, and that creates like this slow erosion in a way. It's something that like repeats in my work, sometimes without like thinking about it, but then I'm like, yeah, it's like, that's like this material over time from this tapping, there is like a slow change that is happening, like an invisible change in a way that water does to an object also, like water in a river that changing a stone. And then these wall works that are images of like family images, older family images, like this is my grandmother's when she was younger. And so there are images painted with clay, transferred onto a clay tablet that then this glaze bits has been inserted into the clay. And during the firing, the temperature, I on purpose put it higher than what actually these glaze bits can tolerate. So, and I put the clay tablets in a vertical situation, so the glaze bits would ooze out of these images. So basically I was like, this is like a solidified image of like what's happening with those bodies and the water seeping out. This is like a frozen moment of that, of like a past that is like unformed, or like that is like just coming out of these dry surfaces. And this is like an image of my mom with her uncle, and my aunts and my grandmother and my great-grand-uncle. No, my great-uncle. And yeah, these are still images of the rocking piece. And then this work kind of was like a continuation of that rocking piece with the water. I was thinking about like waves, and how like waves at the ocean is just like washing something away. It's just like constant repeated action. And I think movement is also something that like it's always there, like performance, even though they're objects, but I think I see them still as performing things, like even materials are like eroding, like there is like this slow movement that is happening. And in this work, it's like the literal way of like a movement happening. And the cast in this bathtub is a cast of my body, and the image is my aunt's childhood image that is like the first time I'm like actually like there is a motor that is creating a movement and creating this like wave in the bathtub. And then this work that I did at Hammer 2023, outside space. These are casts of my body out of clay, and there is a water circulation happening, like going through the bodies, going over it, and then they are sitting on a metal, like untreated metal, that over time it rusted, and this rust would circulate again back on the bodies and leaving marks. And so, I mean, this is a drawing that's like very initial like idea that I had. And in this work also, like the things that I was like, I mean, this comes out of like those wall works in a way, that like these bodies that are causing, like they are all in this surrender gesture, like this harmless gesture, but like they're on top of each other, and like the top body is causing pain to the bottom. So I'm thinking about like this violence that is happening in this like very surrendered like gesture. And just some pictures of the process. My friends helped me with the casting, and the material and the work was very challenging because clay, the fragility of clay and the heat and the gravity was like really working against me to making that idea to happen. And I had to like make many of them, so actually 5 of them survived. And this is the morning that they were picking up the work, and I just opened the kiln and the work was still hot. And the other work that I had in the show was in the gallery space between two windows. And this was a performative work that also was an installation that was active during the week. And so I installed like a window that was closer to what my grandmother's home window looked like on one side in one of the rooms, and on the other side it was a window closer to like how our window in our home here looks. And in between that wall I created this domestic space with curtains and my grandma's dress hanging and family photos. And there would be like two blowers that are blowing everything in the room, like creating this storm kind of. And I'll be standing there at specific times, like twice a week, and just seeing those images. And like over time also just images from the wind and everything would kind of clear away. These are some just videos of like prototypes and how I went through the process. So the first idea actually was to make a sandstorm. And this is like what I made in my studio to see if this works or not. And then this was when I had the idea of like creating a sandstorm. And but then soon I realized the sand is going to ruin the motor in an hour, and like it's impossible to do it like for a duration of 3 months. And some sketches and window hunting images. And this is the performance day. And then 2024, I was invited to have a solo in Beijing at Spurs Gallery. And this is basically, and also doing a 2-month residency in Jindajian in a ceramic town to make some of the works for the show. And I took with me like a lot of casts of like molds of my body parts and my mom's body parts and like grandmother's, and I went too fast. And so this is a shot of the show, and this is at the residency. So the idea was something else kind of, and it ended up to be something else. So I made this object, and the first idea was that this is going to be casted out of metal, and it's going to be heated up, and the object on top that is holding water would drip down, and then the water would evaporate. But then during the casting basically went wrong, and it became so heavy that they could not cast this thing. It was like the mold became like half a ton of silicone. So, but then when they flipped it, I really liked it as an object. The negative space of that sculpture. Yeah, it's just a video of like how it took about 8 hours to bring this mold from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. Yeah, it was, at some point I was like, this is not possible. It has to be torn apart and it's trash. But then it was on the 1st floor created and was sent to the gallery as the mold. And actually it's like, I'm happy that happened, because I like the work better than what I had as an idea. And sometimes like what happens in my work is like I'm gravitating toward like things that has a risk, even as material, like with ceramic, with like there is this possibility of things going wrong, and that usually it happens in my favor. Someone is doing that with car, right? So the cast also, I mean, what I really liked about it is because there was a water element to this work, and the idea was like, so how am I going to control this water that is seeping out of this image? And that's why I was like thinking about heat element and how like it could evaporate and that create that cycle. And then when I saw the mold, the negative space, it looked like a water reservoir. And so I was thinking just like over time, the water can get collected in that negative space of the sculpture. And so this is the image that the water slowly seeps out and drips into this sculpture. And then this was the other work that I did at the space, this performance that was like durational. Each time it was like for 1 hour, and I'm counterbalancing the weight of the slab that has a ceramic slab image of my mom that weighs about like 100 pounds, and I'm holding it with my body by just tilting a little back. And so also putting this two things, like this object is in a very precarious situation because it could drop and break. And yeah. And when I was not performing, the object and the dress was on the ground. And then summer 2024, I had my first solo show at François Ghebaly Gallery. There was one sculpture center titled A Tap, a Word. And those are casts of my mom's hand, and the body is my body. And so like this element of repetition and slow erosion or sanding, or like this tapping that is both, could be a caring act but can be like a violent act that is eroding something or breaking apart something. And these are some of the like the wall works from that show. That is like kind of a continuation of those wall works that I'm doing, that I was doing, like these bodies that are piled up on each other and on this kind of domestic but also landscape look, that sometimes like bodies are like peeking out and give the suggestion that there might be more bodies under this landscape, that these visible bodies are like praying, or like they're in this like very harmless gesture, but they're like on top of like maybe a pile of bodies underneath. And then end of the summer, I was invited to have a show at Vernacular Institute in Mexico City. And this is how my luggage looked like going there. I had to, so it was in a home gallery space, and there were 4 rooms, and I had this idea of like having one single movement in each of the room. And they were, 3 of them were motorized, and so I had to recreate each of them in my studio to make sure that this is working. The show was called Between Two Mountains, a Flame, a Rock. And so this was one of the works, and again, it's like this precarity of like almost the the candles can fall out and like turn off, but it was not, and like yeah, and the walls like stood for me like between those two mountains, and then in the other work that is like me standing there with a candle, creating that kind of repeated narration, that's the objects replacing each other with the same movement. This is a funny test that I was doing in my studio, and things went wrong. And then this is a drawing for the other idea for the other room. That idea was just me in this dress that gets pulled from one side to the other. And this was just a test that the first one that I was like, oh, the mechanism, I got it, like it's working. And then the candle part kind of came later. And this is what the performance looked like. So I'm holding a cast of my mom's hand that is casted in candle wax, and while I'm like getting pulled from side to side, I try to keep the candle like alive and on. And then this is a test of like for the other work for the other room, and the idea was like just this movement, this simple movement of dragging, getting dragged on the ground. And so this is how the installation was, and then I was like this element of like stone got added to it, like as if like moving the ground also with the feet. And yeah, this is my studio currently, and I'm still thinking about movement. I think right now I'm in a headspace of like thinking about like a simple movement and what does that mean, and what does like how like metaphorically like what does like being dropped or pulled from side to side or being dragged, like how like poetically that can mean something, and how can I extract something out of it with adding a layer of objects, like familiar objects to it. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you, Jen.
So I wanted to ask, so there seems to be like a lot of labor involved, which I feel like is often the case with performance, not always the case, but there's two things, right? So there's the labor of setting up the performance, and then there's also the labor of doing the performance. But even in some of your like more or less ephemeral, more sculptural works, like a lot of the work, like that carpet rug with the toys, you mentioned that it was tedious to make. I was wondering if you find exhaustive or laborious projects, if you find that cathartic, or if it's sort of like a necessary evil. Like it's just like, this is just sort of how I think, and like so I do it this way, but it's not like I like it, it's just what needs to get done.
I think it moves, there are stages to it. Like there is a beginning stage that I'm very excited for this, and I'm like, I'm going to get this done, and I started, and at some point, sometimes I question, like, what am I doing? Does this amount of labor worth the idea? And that's always a balance that I have to like figure out. And it's kind of a hard thing because I always like the ideas that I have is the labor of making it is quite a bit.
Right.
But like, for example, that carpet, I don't know if like that amount of labor was like, yeah, I don't know. It's like always that balance that I try to like balance, like, does this amount of labor worth the idea or
right.
not?
I feel like that is like, I mean, that's often a question that artists have in general, not just performance artists, but especially with performance because it is just something that's activated when you're there. It's like always feels like a specific, like, it's like, is the payoff right? You know, like when you did that one piece where there was the hole in the ground and you were like sitting in the ground, I looked at that and I was like, it's hard to dig a hole that deep.
No, I got
like,
calluses.
Could people like,
I got calluses for that,
You got what?
Calluses.
Oh, yeah, well, you would because like when they do that with like, when they put bodies or coffins in the ground, they'd use like cranes. It's like hard to dig a deep hole, which I feel like also some people in true crime discover too late, but it is like very hard to dig a deep hole. And
sometimes I should say that sometimes I get help from family a lot.
Right,
Like,
and it
so
seems
that's
like you also, like there's a lot of community aspect. Like you get a lot of friends help. You talked about like your work when you came to the United States as being motivated a bit by the challenge of not being able to necessarily fall easily into a community.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you talk about that sense of alienation a little bit more, or?
I mean, I think now I don't feel it like the way I felt like when I just moved from Iran to here, because I was so much a part of a community when I was in Iran, and like everything was so exciting, and like it was like everything was like at a speed of, it was happening like every day there was a thing, and then suddenly I was isolated, and I was in this place that it was still like an art school. I had like all the facilities that I did not have in Iran, but then also I didn't feel belonging here, that it changed over time. Like that was like a feeling maybe the first like 1 or 2 years I had, and slowly like, you know, you get to know the context better. And so I think it's like that, it's like getting to know the cultures, and that happens like very slowly, I think. And I don't know if I still like fully like in this context like know it. And also being far from Iran, I feel like I'm getting away from, I don't know what's happening in Iran right now after 13 years. So it's like this weird in-betweenness of like the context of like,
Do you find that, okay, so like like my ancestry, not me, I wasn't born in Ukraine, but my ancestry is from Ukraine. So sometimes there's a sort of weird relationship with having an emotional reaction to tragedy in a place that you have a relationship with, but it's like a very distant one. How do you navigate emotions or like lack of emotions based on like what's going on in Iran?
I think I still feel pretty close to Iran, to like with everything that is happening, that it really feels like tragic, and but also you also feel like there's a guilt to it too, that like you're not there and you're in this safe zone, that you just see things through social media, and you have immediate family there, you have like your friends that are going through that,
like it's happening to you, but it's not happening to you at the same time. It's happening inside you, but you're not actually there. You're right, that makes sense. I also wanted to ask you in terms of Iran, so some of your figures are in those kind of like extreme prayer positions that I really associate with Islam, because the prayer in Islam is like very like physical. You know, there's like a lot of, so how much does like Islam or spirituality or your relationship, and obviously it's heavily associated with Iran, how does that play in or factor into your work?
I mean, that gesture to me, I picked that because I found it like a little open, like I see it as both, like, it's the salat, like it's a surrender gesture. It's like, It's also in a child pose, in a yoga.
Right.
I see it as like, it was like a gesture that I saw it more than anything as a surrender.
Right.
And it's like you are down to your knee.
I mean, I think that's even what it represents spiritually.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know what I mean? Like within that context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like a very harmless gesture in that way.
Yeah, you
that I was
can't
thinking.
commit any harm to anyone. You're completely vulnerable.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's I think the main reason that I picked that, but definitely there are like association to it, that it could be religion, or it could be, I don't know, just like a body that people can associate to in that position.
Yeah, and also a cultural context too.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah. I also wanted to ask about, I wanted to ask about two other things, but so some of your work is really, really specific, right? It's your mother, it's your grandmother, it's specific people, and you can tell that they're specific bodies. But then other aspects of your work are like literally faceless. So I was wondering if you think a lot about like, maybe this is like bringing some of my own baggage to it, but like ego and identity or lack of identity, like within your work, you know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are like very representative like images that are like family images.
Right, very specific to you, yeah.
Yeah, but even those, when like those clay tablets that I made that were like family images, I was thinking about my own family, but also I was thinking about how these images stand for a group of people, a history that is kind of like the untold stories of a history. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I'm Zoroastrian, and so it's like, you know, it's like a minority in Iran, religion minority, and like those images are not only like my grandparents, my grandma, it's like the stories that they talk about how like throughout history they kind of survived, and it's like this untold stories that is kind of seeping out. So
Zoroastrian, is that an ethnic, like, is it? It's also a religion, right?
It's like
okay, yeah.
First, like monotheistic religion.
Okay, right.
Like,
and so, like, how does that
pre-Islam.
survive in a environment that is so heavily, like Muslim? You know what I mean?
The religion has been there for like 5,000 years,
Right.
and so from like 1,400 years ago when Islam came, like they survived throughout this time.
Right.
But it's a small community, but still. There, but like there are, like I was thinking about just like the untold stories that has happened. Like you would hear, as like my generation, you would hear like little bits of stories of like things that went on when your great grandparents were alive, and like that story was passed down. And so it's like those images stand for like that, like those generations that.
Yeah, and that maybe don't make it into the larger kind of cultural narrative that plays out on a country or international level, right? And I also wanted to ask about your emotional relationship with that reality, and in the sense that, like, does this idea of like lost histories, I mean, usually the word lost generally evokes sadness, but it doesn't have to, you know? So I was wondering, like, what's your emotional relationship to that fact? These lost histories, faded memories. Do you have a complicated how would you describe it?
I don't know. I think I see it as a reality, as something that exists, and it's not just specific to like my experience. It's like everyone kind of, there is that lost history that always exists, and we don't know the past fully ever. And so it's we accept it in a way, like we know this is the reality, and like it's just like being aware of like that's how it is. But
yeah, sort of like being mindful of what we can't know in a way, or that we don't know everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna open it up if y'all want to ask some questions.
Oh, many questions. Okay. I mean, can.
Yeah. You raised.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one, what did your grandmother say after playing with the rod?
She thought it's funny. Yeah. She was
like
just
laughing?
No, she's not, like her character is not. I mean, she would laugh, but it was like she thought it's funny. It just she was like, what is this? Kind of that.
So she got to play.
Yeah, it was playful for sure for her, yeah. No.
And the second one is, can you talk more about the elements and the use of elements in your work? Elements being like water, fire, wind.
Yeah.
And I know you have some systems that
Yeah.
you get inspiration from.
Thank you, Valeria. So yeah, I mean, those things kind of like, I don't think about it when I'm making it, but when I look back, I say, oh, there are these elements that like kind of goes through, like water is something that has been like that painting in the pond, water was there. And I think it's like all these elements are kind of like work together in a way that affect each other, like with the clay and the fire, how it turned to ceramic, how melts something down, how the water is eroding and washing away something. Like there is always this interaction with materials and like this cause and effect that happens between the materials. That actually, that's like a system that also I think about, like how the motor is moving me. It's like there is a cause and effect that happening. Like one thing is in one side of the wall, causing something on the other side, like invisible things or visible things that are like either slow or in a faster speed that are affecting something. Yeah, of course. And then, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for sharing your work and so much
Thanks
of
for
your
coming.
inspiration. As a performance artist, what are you most interested or inspired by from the viewer?
From the viewer, like one thing that I like performances that I do, they're usually like very simple acts. Like they're very mundane, simple acts that I usually don't practice it, except some that are like I have to see if I can actually like stay in this position for some time. But they are simple enough that there is no rehearsal. I think the audience, when like till up to the performance, I'm very like there is this like nervousness that I'm like this with this like. But as soon as I go in and there is an audience, there is like an energy that it makes you do it and you feel it. That and also if there would be no, like I never perform for a camera. There has to be like a live audience that I'm doing in front. And also like the performances that I did in Iran specifically, like there was not that much of advertisement or like telling people, oh, this is happening at this time. You would do an action and you leave, and whoever see it would see it, and it remains in the eye of the person who was there. And I think that action for me was like very powerful and liberating, because just like you do it and there's no trace behind. And so yeah, that's like the performance versus like an object that, yeah.
Do you feel like there's a character that emerges with each piece, or like parts of your personality that kind of come to light that maybe surprise you, depending on what room is in front of you, or where, like from being suspended in a chair to like being behind the window and having wind blown, and there is a separation between you and your audience.
Yeah.
Is there?
It's definitely like the audience gives me that energy or the power of staying in it and doing it, because there is an eye looking at you. But like if there is like a persona or something, I think my performances are very much like I try to stick to the realness of me and like realness of like what this situation is. Like when I'm in the window, I try to be like in the headspace of like I'm like actually looking at these pictures, and these are like family pictures, and this is me and this is my situation, and like with all of that is like the closest to the reality of what that action is and who am I. Like I'm aware of all of those actions, but there is no like character making or like that's never has been so far a part of like my practice.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, yeah, and then you lose, yeah.
Well, it's sort of continuing to the conversation. I saw your work at the Hammer and I really loved it, and that's what brought me tonight, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So can you speak more to that feeling of wanting to communicate? The tug and pull was amazing, was trying to keep this balance.
Yeah.
Do you feel like something, do you discover something or answers, or you're obviously communicating like the past, the continent. There's so much in it. It's very touching.
Yeah, thank you. I think the performances also come to me as like these images. So it's like, in a way, when I draw them and I have this image, I kind of know what it's like. Specifically in that one, I knew kind of like what kind of feeling I'm creating. And yeah, when I'm like holding that candle and like it's actually like at some point the candle like melted in my hand and like it just like becomes so real, and like that pain is very real, and like holding this. So there are elements that actually like, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like, yeah, also like there is the image, but also I think about like the metaphors of this thing and how like this simple gesture, what does this can stand for? Like the walls that is like, and also the title of it, like between two mountains that here become two walls, and like these objects, like each of these are in the center of this room.
Well, and the tug and pull, trying to be different or your own self, and then keeping the culture or where you come from.
Yeah.
And then it melts into your hand. It's kind of like this, maybe this whole balance of discovery.
Yeah, yeah, it could definitely be read, like that. Or one thing that for that work that when I was doing, I was not thinking about it, but like Zoroastrians are known for like praying toward light, and also they're like taking care of fire, like all the elements, like we have to keep the elements clean and like not polluting them, like from water, earth, wind, like air, and the fire. And so, and like usually there is a word of being a nurse to the fire. And when I was doing it, I was thinking, like after I did it, I was like, yeah, I was like having that a role of like being a nurse to this fire, kind of like keeping it like not going out, but yeah.
I think my question was very related to the last two, but you have this really beautiful way of distilling these kind of poetic gestures and moments of transformation, and I was curious, like, what is going on in your head as you're performing these, quite literally, and if it changes quite a lot from performance to performance, or do you feel like you're kind of going blank, or you have a specific kind of space mentally that you go into?
I mean, the performances that are one-time action definitely are. I mean, the first time that I'm doing any of the performances, I have the most feeling and like reaction to it. And as it gets repeated, especially for the work that I did at Hammer, because it was like during 3 months, 2 times a week, at some point it became like, it felt like a ritual, and like I would forget that I'm there, or it became boring at some point. So I go through all those emotions of like, it's like kind of meditation in a way, that like you can't go far from what the purpose of this is, and so but the first one definitely is, I believe, like for me, performances work for one action and one time, and then when it's repeated, it slowly loses its purpose in a way. Any other questions?
I don't know if I have a question.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, because, okay, let me formulate it while I'm talking. Because like you're using a very vulnerable objects, like the bodies of your deceased relatives, right? Like, and only the family, like the female side of the family. So like there's, I don't know, I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like, obviously I'm gonna create like stories, right? Like, oh, why are like masculine figures like out of this? Why? I don't know. Like, okay, so the question is, how much do you care? Like, how much do you want a specific read from an audience?
Yeah.
Like, because of it's about family, you know, and like it's very easy to project so many stories on them, and it could be all sorts of things, right? And the nature of the work is somehow like, I don't know which word to use, body is not there. So anyway, like how much do you care about, how much do you care about how people react to it, like in their own mythologies and the projections that could be from very sweet to like horrible?
I mean, isn't that the story of artists? Like how much?
I know. Yeah. That's why I'm asking it.
Yeah.
Do you care?
Of course, yeah. No, it's like, especially when it comes to like my mom's, like my own body. I'm putting my own body, and it's okay. But like when it comes to my mom's body or grandmother's body, definitely I would question that. Like I'm putting their body in a vulnerable situation. But obviously, I like have full consent from them that it's. But like what you say about like how much I care about like what the audience are going to take, it's scary. It's like, especially like I think one thing that, especially being here, like in Iran I was not feeling it that much, but here you can easily be put in a box with your identity, that everything that it filters through that identity. And it's a thing that I have to deal with it. I don't know, at some, like, especially when it comes to pieces of writing and become like into words. That's like when I feel, oh, this is how people are like projecting their own ideas into my work. But how I can control it, I don't know yet. It's like, I think it's a slow process of like, this is not what I meant, and having that, gaining that power kind of to like be like, this is actually about this, or and also like the work sometimes does what it does. Like if it's too open and like it's the work doing that, and it's out of my hand kind of, like people can project, and it's like it's not much in my control. Cara.
I just wanted to know what your favorite piece that you made is, and like, or if there was a piece that like really gave you a wow moment.
Yeah, I can give you that one.
Yeah.
It was the performance that I did in Iran in the pond. That was the one that I was the most excited. I remember that night I could not fall asleep. I was so excited about that. So yeah.
Did you have another question? Huh? Oh, well, I was going to say, oh no, it was you that had another question.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the material you're using as your thread?
There are different ones. So for the one that with the fingers, they're fishing wire. Like they're not like those. There's a name for it. It's not the one that is like transparent, but there's another. It's a. What is it?
They're like
threaded, exactly. So it's more flexible. That's fishing wire, and then the other ones are like heavy-duty threads that usually they use it for sewing letters and stuff like that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
How long does it take you? Like, what is your kind of research and development?
It's a lot of testing. Like with that coming up, like I ordered so many different threads to know actually that amount of friction would that last, and that was the thread that would last with that like amount of like rubbing against the drywall.
And the motors, are you working with a company telling them like, this is
No.
the sort of speed? Like, it's all you?
It's me, my dad, and Granger.
Yeah, that one studio shot, it reminded me of like an inventor's workshop. Or, you know what I mean? When you were like doing the machine with the candles.
Yeah, it's
like
a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of testing. At some, very beginning, like I have an idea, I sketch it, and then I forget it. I'm like, how can I make this happen?
Right.
And it goes through so much like testing and like what material works and
I think we have time for one more. If there's one more question.
What are you working on next that you can share?
In the picture, the last picture, one motion that I'm excited is like dropping. So it's like something getting lifted and getting dropped, but I don't know what to do with it yet. The other is like a very slow kind of this kind of motion. So and it would be interactive. So then people walk around it, it would like do this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you describe it in terms of what motions you're interested in next.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting.
I think that's like at least the first, like the seed, and then what can I do with it, and then what is the meaning of it, and
Yeah, kind of distill it from there.
yeah,
Yeah, so start with the motion.
exactly.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much. We have the next Art Talks is going to be March 6th with Shana Hohen, and I hope you can be there too. There's also, it's not open anymore, but there's an exhibition here by ThinkSpace, which is their 20-year anniversary. And yeah, thanks again for coming, and thank you, Roxana.
Thank you.